Welcome back, everyone, to the eCoreAcademy e-learning platform. My name is AJay Raj, back with yet another eCore Express Java lesson for you all. And today's lesson is going to be about expressions in Java. This is going to be building off of the basics that we built in the previous lesson on variables in Java. Now that we have more of the basics out of the way, we can progress into more advanced topics. We're going to take a look at some common expressions in Java, and I'm going to be showing you how to use them in real time. So first things first, let's switch to our Eclipse workspace. All right, so now that we've made it to our Eclipse workspace, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be continuing off of the notes that we made in the previous lesson on variables. I'm just going to be extending off of that same exact class in our Unit 2 project of your eCore Express Java folder, so that you can just add it to this existing class and we can just create a larger set of notes, because this is supposed to be one giant set of notes, but we broke this apart in 3 videos so we can explain them more in depth. But you can just add on to this existing class that you added your previous lesson notes to. So we can scroll down here past our variables notes, and we can move on to our second stop, which is expressions in Java. So we're going to be starting off by, I'm going to be introducing these different expressions to you, very common expressions, and then I'm going to be showing you how to actually utilize them using Java code. So just to reinstate, all of this green text on your screen is just notes, it's comments. That's just for your sake. It doesn't register as actual code. So our first expression, simply enough, is addition. So when you think of expressions, they're not just these complicated functions. Some of them are more complicated and built in Java, but some of them are very simple. So we have one of our more common expressions, which is just addition, a numerical operation. So using 2 or more previously declared variables that have already been assigned values, like we explained before, you have to declare a value, and then if you have 2 variables or a variable that you want to assign a value to, you can assign it any value that you want. You can calculate their sum with the operator plus. So essentially, if you have 2 variables that you want to add together, number 1 and number 2, you can find out what their sum is by simply adding them together with the plus sign. You can print the solution to the console/computer using the syntax as we've seen before in the previous lesson, system.out.println, and whatever info you would like to print out. So I'm going to be going through the process of creating 2 variables and conducting this operation to see what the sum is. So in order to do this, you're going to have to create 3 separate variables in this process. 2 of those variables are going to be the 2 variables that you add together, and the third variable is going to store their sum. So let's do that. So up here we have our variable declarations. That's going to be at the top of our notes, every segment of our notes. So here we're going to create an integer. We'll use integers for now. We're going to create one integer called number 1 or num1. Our second integer is going to be num2. And our final integer is going to be sum. Now, as you can see here, I created my integers all in one line. That's because they're all related integers. They're going to be used for the same process, so you can use them for the same line, and they are of the same variable type. If these integers were being used in different processes, I would recommend entering them, putting them on new lines so it's more organized, but since we're using them for the same operation, it's okay. So here what we're going to do is, we're going to be setting values for each of our numbers. So let's set num1, our first variable, equal to a simpler number. Let's set it equal to 5. And then let's take num2, and we're going to assign it the value of 6. So we just created 2 separate variables, num1 and num2. We set them both equal to their respective values. Now what we have left to do is we want to add these 2 numbers together, these 2 variables together, num1 and num2, and we want to see what their sum is. So we have our variable that we created called sum. It's created up here. We're going to set that equal to the addition of num1 and num2. Now, as you can see here, I use the basic operation symbol plus sign. That's just because we're going to be adding together the values of number 1, which is 5, and num2, which is 6. And as you can do, calculate that in your head, that's going to be 11. But let's see if we calculated it correctly, if this operation actually works. So we'll use our special function here, system.out.println. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be printing out our sum. So we're going to be putting in text sum. So as you can see here, I just put it in double quotes in our system.out.println statement. Whenever you put anything in quotes, it's just going to print out the text. It's not going to print out any code. It's going to print out the text of whatever you're typing. Once you exit those double quotes, then you're printing out variables. So let's add the plus sign. In order to add a variable to any text, you would say plus. So let's say the sum equals. Then outside of the double quotes, you would add plus, and then you'd put the variable name. So what this is going to print out to our console should be 11. So it should say sum equals 11. Let's see if we actually correctly computed this. So as you can see here, our console just printed out sum equals 11. So all I did here was I put in word form the word sum here. And then I said equals to, and that was in quotes. So that's just going to print out the general text. And then afterwards, you add a plus sign and whatever variable you want to print afterwards. And that's 11, the value that's holding within sum. So we did properly compute 5 plus 6 equals 11 using the addition operation. It's an expression. Now, on to our next type of expression. We have subtraction. This is when you're using two or more previously declared variables that have already been assigned values. You can calculate their difference with the operator minus. So this on its own is considered an operation. So when I'm talking about expressions in this video, all that this is this right here. If you're looking at num1 plus num2, it's just utilizing whatever specific operation we have here, and we can always set that equal to any value, but this is the actual expression that we're concerned about. So we're going to practice that here as well. All right, so we're going to be taking our previously declared variables. We already have num1, num2, and sum, so we can just reuse those variables for this operation. Remember, when you're assigning values, you can keep the value of num1 and num2, but when you're assigning something later on in the program, it'll basically erase all of this information here, and it'll update it with new information. But we'll keep the number num1 equals 5, num2 equals 6 the same. So I'll just rewrite that here. Num1 equals 5, and num2 equals 6. So we just created two variables which are holding two different numbers. Now what we want to do is we want to subtract. So let's create let's create a new variable in this case for our subtraction. So we'll hit enter. We'll create a new line because we're doing a new operation here, and we'll just call this our difference variable. We just created a new variable, an integer called difference. So here what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the difference between num1 and num2. So we'll say difference, the variable that we created, we'll say difference equals num2. Because it's larger, we want to keep things simple. We'll say num2 minus num1. Now, if you do that calculation in your head, it should be 6 minus 5, which should equal 1. But we want to make sure this operation worked correctly. So let's print it out to the console and see what the answer is. So I'll take my previous statement here, system.out.println. We'll paste it down here. And then I'm going to change this to difference, the name of our variable. And then we'll print the actual variable value here outside of the double quotes. And here we should get, in our console, it should say difference equals 1. Let's see if we did this correctly. Let's hit that green play button again to see what our console prints out. And as you can see here, it did successfully print out the difference, which is equal to 1. All right, moving on to our third expression type, which is multiplication. It's a type of operation. So now we're going to be utilizing two or more previously declared variables that have been assigned values, and you can multiply them with the operator. It's basically the multiplication sign, but on your keyboard you use the asterisk. So the asterisk is located, if you hit Shift 8, you'll find your asterisk key. So let's do the same thing that we did in the previous exercise. Let's utilize the same numbers that we already created up here, num1 and num2. We'll just reuse them, and then we'll create a new integer for our product, which is the result of multiplying two numbers. So I'll utilize num1. I'll just reinstate that value, num1 equals 5, num2 equals 6. Since we already created those variables, we're just reassigning the same value just to keep things organized in our notes. And then we're going to create a new variable. We're going to enter, create a new line because we're using this for a different operation. We're going to call it int product. So we're going to declare that at the very top of our code. We're going to scroll back down to our notes where our multiplication operation is, our multiplication expression type. And then we're going to set our product here we're going to set it equal to num1 times num2. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to calculate the multiplication of your first and second number, and you want to see what that product is. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to test whether or not this operation actually works. If it's successfully executed, we want to see if 5 times 6, if it's going to spew out the value of 30, the product of 30, the correct value. So we're going to take our previous system.out.println statement, copy and paste. You always want to copy and paste as much as possible in Java. It saves a lot of time. So we have here system.out.println. We'll change this to product. And then we'll put the actual variable name outside of the quotes. So it won't be printing as text. It'll print the actual value of product, the variable. And if we did our operation correctly, it should print out the value of, it should say in the console, product equals 30, because 5 times 6 is 30. So let's print that out to our console. And as you can see, our product does indeed equal 30. All right. Now we're moving on to our last numerical operation, common operation. We have a division. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division are more of the basic types of your numerical operations. And so these are much easier expression types to get used to. But after this, we'll be moving on to the harder ones. So let's just reinstate those same two variables, num1 and num2. We'll set them equal to the same values. Num1 equals 5 and num2 equals 6. And we will do let's create easier variables. Let's reset the value of num1 to 3 instead, just to make our division a little bit cleaner. So now what we have to do is, since we reassign the value of num1, which we already declared, and num2, which we already declared, we set them equal to 3 and 6 respectively. We have to create one more variable, which is going to be our result. So it's going to be our division result. So we created a new integer, we declared it, and we named it division result. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back down to our division notes. We're going to set our variable division result. We're going to set that equal to num2 divided by num3. And then again, as you can see here, we used our operation, num2 divided by num1, I apologize. So as you can see here, we utilize the operation, the slash, that's for the division, as stated up here in our notes. We're going to be dividing num2 by num1 just because it's 6 divided by 3. It's something that we know, we know by heart. 6 divided by 3 is 2. That's just to verify if we actually did the operation correctly for practice sake. So we set division result. That's essentially the result of num2 divided by num1. So 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So let's see if we did that correctly, if the computer executed that correctly. So we'll take our system.out.println statement. I just repasted it. And we'll just say our division result is equal to the variable itself, division result. And as you can see, the way that I'm naming my variables, if there's two parts to the name, make sure that the first part of the variable, any variable that you make, has to be lowercase, and any other significant name after that has to be capitalized. So like division result, it's 2 different names, but you'd mesh them together. Division is lowercase, result, the R in result is uppercase. All right, let's see what that prints to our console. And as you can see, we did successfully print that the division result is going to equal 2. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now moving on to our next expression type, we have something called modulus. Modulus is a little bit more unique to Java, but you do know what it is in mathematical terms. So whenever you have two declared variables that have been assigned values, you can find the remainder once the number on the right is divided into the number on the left with the operator symbol %. So say, for example, if you're dividing two numbers like 6 divided by 3, right? You would be dividing 6 on the left-hand side divided by 3 on the right-hand side. So those would be two different variables that you're dividing. Once you divide them, what the modulus operator does is it calculates what the remainder is after you divide them. So 6 divided by 3, since 3 goes into 6 evenly, you'll have a remainder of 0. So I'll show you what that looks like on actual code. So we'll reuse our numbers before. We'll reuse num1 equals 2, num1 equals 3, and num2 equals 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the modulus operator. So let's go back up to the top where our variable declarations are. We'll put in int, and we'll just say modulus result as our new variable. that we declare. Now we're going to go back down to our code for modulus, our notes here, and then we're going to set modulus results equal to, and then like I said, this is a unique operator, but we're going to take num2. We're going to say percent num1. So what this is essentially doing is when you say num2 percent num1, we're taking 6, which is our num2. We're going to divide it by 3, which is our num1. It's going to divide those values, and then it's going to what's going to be stored in the variable modulus result is going to be the remainder of that division. It's not the actual what's the result of the division. It's going to be the remainder after dividing those two values. So we know by heart 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. It goes into 3 goes into 6 evenly, so it should have a result of 0, a remainder of 0. So let's print that out. We'll say modulus result equal to modulus result. And we can hit play to see if that is correct, if we calculated it correctly. And as you can see here, our modulus result is equal to 0. So indeed, there is a remainder of 0 when you calculated the modulus of 6 and 3. All right, everyone. So thank you all for tuning into this lesson. This was expressions in Java, but this will be our part 1 lesson. We will officially finish off this lesson in the next video, which is part 2, a little bit of a shorter video, just to divide these expressions into more bite-sized chunks for you all. So that'll be it for this lesson. Please make sure to like and subscribe down below, leave a comment, and help support the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And don't forget to tune into the next video, part 2.